cloudy, but it is finally the weekend here in Tallahassee, and I'm enjoying it. We've had our first full week of shows here at FSU Weather, which has been very exciting, especially for us new team leads. But we're closing out our Friday on a gorgeous note, some nice cloud cover and some pink clouds out there. But this could be a possible storm as we head into the later parts of tonight. So if you're heading to College Town or you've got some Friday night plans, you might want to bring a rain jacket or an umbrella because we do have rain on the way. Temperatures, though, right now sitting fairly warm. It's also coupled with that humidity and that rain, so it's feeling a little bit sticky. But these storms aren't bringing too bad conditions in terms of wind. Things are looking fairly calm, but like I said, we will have a couple of showers going into tonight. Our dew points, like I said, are muggy. That's helping to fuel these possible thunderstorms we're going to be seeing. Local radar right now shows those spotty showers, so you could get caught in one of these as you're making your plans tonight. So that's just something to keep in mind. And we're going to be talking a lot here on FSU Weather, so stay tuned.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have a lot of interesting stuff to talk about tonight. We do have some storms and showers rolling through the area actually this evening too.
Yeah, I have some plans for tonight, and it might get rained out just a little bit, but it's still looking to be spotty, so not too terrible or severe in that case either.
Yeah, we're definitely going to have to pay attention all weekend because we do have that frontal boundary that's going to be over our area, so we could have multiple rounds of showers and storms that could get heavy at some points this weekend.
Yeah, I talked about on Monday that we could have like a slight cold front maybe coming through the area, but that just didn't really happen. But we do have that front moving through, and that's what's keeping us a little stormy tonight.
Yeah, it definitely is. We are finally going to get that frontal passage on Sunday instead of when it was supposed to come today originally. But
is it going to be cool though, or is it just going to happen and bring dry air?
At least it's going to be drier, but it's not going to be much cooler. We're still expecting temperatures in the mid to upper 80s next week.
Yeah, that's definitely warm. And our dew points from those other graphics were like sitting in the 70s, so it's muggy out there. I'm kind of looking forward to that dry air.
Yeah, the dry air is definitely going to be the main story as we head into next week because the dew points will drop. And I'm actually going to take you over to the wall so that we can take more of a look at our local forecast this evening. But right now, we're looking around the local area and we're looking at Tallahassee. Tallahassee is currently at 79. St. George Island is also at 79 degrees, and you got Thomasville 86 and St. Mark's. I don't know what's going on with the camera. It looks kind of hazy right now, but you're at 81 where you have had the sea breeze move in this evening. Looking at your current temperatures, it's still pretty warm, except right now we've got some outflow boundaries over Tallahassee, which is keeping the temperature a little bit lower at 79. The rest of the area, 88 in Quincy, 87 in Bainbridge, 87 in Donaldsonville. We've got some pretty warm temperatures. The outflows and the sea breeze are coming in from the south, so those temperatures should cool off as we head later into the evening. Looking at your wind speeds, though, they have gotten a little bit higher since I looked at my graphics a bit ago, which is about what I thought. We're now at 5 miles an hour out of the south in Tallahassee, but look at up here. Your winds in southern Georgia are more 10 to 15 miles an hour, and that's a little bit breezy, so that's going to definitely be something you feel. Looking at your dew points, 77-degree dew point in Tallahassee. It's extremely muggy this evening, and that's going to lead to showers and storms. Monticello has been reading warm for the past few days, but 80-degree dew point, you're not too far off from that, I'm sure, there. And along the coast, you're in the mid-70s for dew points as well, so it's muggy area-wide. And you can even see with your upper-level water vapor, anything south of I-10, you've got more moisture in the upper levels, and this is where we're seeing showers and storms right at this time as well. So if you live south of 10, especially this evening, you're more likely to see those showers and storms, as you can see right now, and they're firing up along this outflow, along the sea breeze as it comes north. So Tallahassee will likely see some showers and storms later this evening. But looking area-wide, you've got some complexes of storms in southern Georgia as well. You had a pretty strong storm move through the Lake City area a little bit ago. That was the strongest storm in our viewing area. And we could see some stronger and heavy storms this evening. You can see the future radar. And then as we head into tomorrow, we get more of the same story with another big day of pop-up storms expected. Sunday looks like the day the front will actually pass. So we do have one more day of showers and storms still with that on Sunday before the cooler and drier weather gets here. And we could expect potentially some pockets of 3 inches of rain, but most of the area should stay under 2 inches. But if you get those storms to train or you get one to sit over the same area, you're talking about a much higher chance of rain in that one particular area. So that's definitely something to pay attention to. And looking at your week ahead, the next 2 days, those are going to be the 2 days to watch. Storms on Saturday, storms on Sunday. But look what happens. You may not see much difference in the high temperatures, but if you're looking at your low temperatures, this is where you're going to see your difference. It's going to get drier, dew points are going to go lower, and your rain chances are going to drop, and it's going to feel nicer. Now I'm going to pass things off to Aaron.
Thanks, Nick. Oh my, 64 degrees on the 7-day. That looks really delightful, especially coming from a really hot summer this summer here across the tri-state area. But kind of taking things out over the state of Florida here. So the Sunshine State definitely lives up to its name if you're in Panama City or in Fort Myers with that very bright sun there over the horizon there. So both sitting, well, it's 92 in Fort Myers and then 85 in Panama City. Orlando also sitting in the 80s as well. West Palm Beach looks like it's a little bit cloudy down there and over in South Florida. It's not the same as over Central and over in the North Florida, but overall not a terrible time, 82 degrees out there as you head out the door in Fort Lauderdale. So current temperatures across the state, we are sitting in the roughly in the 80s around the I-10 corridor, down 75 and 95. We're also sitting in the upper 80s. It's not until you get down towards about Miami or West Palm Beach area where you might perhaps encounter a shower or two if you are out in that direction. Especially want to make sure you take precautions, be careful. Don't try not to drive in these downpours. It can get a little bit, at least the visibility can come down significantly in some of these storms. So current winds are relatively light and variable across North Florida, maybe a little bit windy as you get towards Pensacola. It's not until you get over to the East Coast we have more of an easterly wind, southeasterly wind in some spots where you might see winds gusting above 10 miles an hour, so 15 in Orlando, 14 in Jacksonville, and then a little bit higher as well as you get towards southeast Florida. Current dew points also staying pretty muggy outside with those 70s much across the state of Florida. It's actually helping to produce some of these sea breeze thunderstorms here across the state. So we have that mugginess in the air, and when you have any kind of lift that allows those air particles to rise and form these thunderstorms. And we're starting to see some of those on the radar here across Florida, especially along central Florida and along the peninsula here. So you have some showers kind of converging here perhaps later in the day around the spine of the state. So future radar kind of hints the same possibility with those storms eventually kind of collapsing overnight. Another round tomorrow as we have the daytime heating coming up. And then Sunday looks like we might have a little bit of a break in the showers activity, at least not as widespread, at least across the peninsula of Florida. So rainfall forecast kind of showing the bulk of it around this area where we have the convergence of the two sea breezes over the central part of the state. And those future temperatures, of course, we're seeing those 70s overnight, at least about this time tomorrow, 24 hours from now, 78 degrees over Tampa. We go up into the 80s here as we get into your Saturday. Again, mostly 80s and 90s as we get across the state. Sunday morning, you're waking up into the upper 70s, so still pretty toasty there out the door in most of the state. And if you're going to Panama City Beach here, we're going to expect these beautiful conditions to continue with those 80s. But, Caitlin, 68 degrees for that low on Sunday night.
That looks wonderful. So I'm a beach girl at my core, so I just love a good hot beach day. But I am excited about this cold front, and this cold front is going to be expected to coming in this weekend and affect much of the southeast. And these are all our beautiful southeast cameras. Tennessee's looking a little dark. I don't think it's quite nighttime there yet, but everywhere else is looking gorgeous, and conditions are going to kind of stay this way as we go into the week until we see that front happen on Sunday. Current temperatures looking hot. The southeast is always notorious for being warm, and everyone's sitting there right around 80 degrees. Some of us and some of our friends are finally in the 70s right now, but we're still expected to be muggy and warm going into tonight. Winds are looking calm, kind of southeast wide. Like most of us in the southeast are sitting fairly calm in terms of wind, nothing too crazy. These storms that we're seeing kind of scattered, they're not producing much wind or any kind of severe conditions. They're just bringing some nice sprinkles, a little rain, kind of dampening that Friday night fun. Dew points, though, looking to be warm. We did have a cold front come in yesterday that brought a little bit of dryness there for our friends in Arkansas and Louisiana, but it didn't quite make it down all the way throughout the southeast. So most of us are still seeing those hot and muggy high dew points. Upper level water table is going to show what areas could have convection. We've got some nice dry air there in North Carolina, but most of us have a little bit of upper level water vapor that's going to keep the fuel for those storms and maybe bubble up a couple storms in here in our area in Tallahassee, but also there in Louisiana and Little Rock as well. Looking at that radar, we can see kind of that correlation where we had those upper level water vapor readings. We do see a couple showers that have propagated along the southeast, and that's going to be the case until they fizzle out tonight, but they'll rebound back as we go into tomorrow. Here's a look at that future radar. That's going to show that kind of rebound. Like I said, we'll warm up, and then we'll have a couple of scattered showers throughout the southeast. Going into Sunday, when you see that line start to form, that's that cold front we've been talking about on the show. It's going to affect Tallahassee here on Sunday, but the southeast can start feeling those effects starting tomorrow, going into the rest of the weekend and the early work week. And they're going to be seeing dry conditions, and maybe even Little Rock's going to dip down a little bit and get a little bit cooler. So most of us that are sitting on the eastern, southern portions of the southeast, they're not going to be seeing those cool temperatures, but most of us will be feeling some drier conditions, which will be a relief after we saw all of those dew points. And rain is a good thing. I know some of us don't like having rain, but everyone will see a little bit of it as this system makes its way through. And that's a great prevention for fire weather and drought. So if it's not severe in terms of flooding, it's just kind of nice to have as it sprinkles us and moves on through. Temperatures, looking at the day tomorrow, or going into tonight into tomorrow, we're only going to be sitting in the mid-60s, and then it's going to warm up again to about mid-80s and 90s, so hot and sticky. We're going to go back down into the 60s and 70s and warm right back up to the 80s as we go into Sunday. But Nico, what are you going to talk about?
I'm going to talk about the national forecast, where we actually have quite a few, we have some interesting stuff going on nationally right now. I'm going to wait for the national graphics to pop up as we are still waiting. I'm going to talk, though, about finishing up the southeast really quick, though, because you do have showers and storms around the southeast. All right, now they've got the graphics up to the right place. All right, looking at your current temperatures and current winds, you've got a lot of missing data, but you can tell that some areas, you got Bismarck, North Dakota in the north. It's windy up here, and San Francisco is the other windy spot, but you can definitely see within the missing data that there is enough wind speeds to be able to tell kind of what's going on here. Dew points, though, this is your major story across the southeast. The warmest dew point, the highest dew point in the entire country right now is here in Tallahassee, where it's very muggy. And you can see that just by stepping outside with a 77-degree dew point. It's not a nice feeling this evening to be walking around. It's the kind of feeling that makes you sweat immediately, and you can see the culprit here, the stalled out front right over the southeast, right over Tallahassee, that's enhancing our moisture, enhancing our showers and storms. It's going to keep things pretty muggy in the southeast this evening, but looking around the rest of the country, you got high pressure over pretty much the entire northeastern two-thirds of the country, and then the rest of the country you have a cold front extending from about Wisconsin through Texas, and you see showers and storms ahead of this cold front as well. And here's where we're going to talk about upper level winds. You can see where the jet stream is. We have one system that's going to come through the southeast. That is creating our showers and storms. That's our frontal boundary. That's going to move through this weekend, and it's going to clear out Sunday. You have another part of the jet streak up here that's going to steer Hurricane Lee just east of the northeast in areas, and you can kind of see the steering right now as we move into the weekend, move into Saturday. That steering starts to pull Lee up here, but it starts to bend down, and then the trough comes through on Sunday. So after Sunday, what's going to happen is we're going to dry out in the southeast. We're going to dry out with our dew points. It's going to feel nice. It's going to feel a little cooler, even though the air temperatures aren't going to be that much cooler. But you can see up until Sunday, we're going to be dealing with moisture. We're going to be dealing with humidity. We're going to be dealing with showers and storms. But the rest of the country, as you head into the end of the weekend, that cold front has passed, and the rest of the country stays pretty dry. You've got high pressure out in the central part of the country. It's going to feel nice and dry out there, but ahead of that, our rainfall forecast, luckily Texas is seeing quite a bit of rain because they're in a pretty decent drought right now here in Texas, so they definitely need this rain. The southeast, we're also going to see a lot of rain. Parts of the area just west of Tallahassee are actually still in that drought, so they need it too. But you can see we might be getting a little bit too much in some parts of Florida at once, 2 to 3 inches. And you can see up here your major area of rainfall, 7 to 10 inches in some pockets of eastern Maine associated with Hurricane Lee. And that area does not need any rain, as you can see on the drought monitor. They have been having a lot more rain than average, so we don't need to be seeing this up here. We do need to be seeing this for our friends out in Texas. That's who needs all this rain. But looking at your future temperatures pretty much countrywide, you could see that they're going to cool off in the morning, obviously, but pretty warm across the entire southern U.S. It's in the 70s in Texas. It's in the 70s in Florida. It's potentially going to be storming even in the morning in Tallahassee because of that boundary. But up in the Great Lakes, it's a bit cooler where the front has already passed. As you head into Saturday, we have another warm day throughout the southeastern United States. And continuing up all the way through Sunday, another muggy night, another warm day is going to be on tap for Sunday. But you do see drier air starting to creep into the rest of the country, and you can see that with your max temperature anomalies too. It is going to start to cool off and feel nicer. But looking at your weekend forecast, looking at San Francisco, it's going to be pretty nice for the next 3 days. But now I'm going to pass things off to the desk.
Actually, Nico, we're going to kind of stick here out on the wall, but we're going to change gears, though, for a second and go to our lifestyle forecast here. So, again, if you're heading out of Tallahassee International Airport here, no airport delays locally, but if you are heading out, say, near Miami, where there are some thunderstorms we saw earlier, they might perhaps have a delay or two with some flights moving out of the airport there. So, again, might want to watch out, and that trend is going up, so might be expecting even more delays over the next several hours or so. But elsewhere, Jacksonville, Dallas, Fort Worth, if you're from Dallas, for those of you who are, Chicago, all are in the green here. So airport forecast for Tallahassee, right now it's 80 degrees or so with no other delays expected. A few clouds in the sky here. Around midnight or so, 74 degrees. Weather delays are still unlikely as we don't expect to see many showers around the area. By tomorrow morning, 73 degrees. Perhaps might be a few extra showers. Might have to watch for a few flights there, but it shouldn't be overly abundant in terms of delays. If you're headed out to Friday, College Town here should stay really pleasant with no need for a jacket, of course, but except for a windbreaker perhaps if you are out there and get caught in that rain. So 77 at 9 p.m., 73 by 3 a.m. So if you're heading out the door tomorrow, perhaps to the AMS late cleanup by tomorrow morning at 8, we should expect lower delays. However, that might increase as we get throughout the rest of the day with increasing shower activity around the area and staying in roughly in the 80s or so. If you're heading out to the beach tomorrow in Panama City Beach there, we do expect a few showers possible as well, and perhaps a rumble of thunder or two. Temperatures in the mid-80s with a wind out of the south at 5 to 10. If you are cheering on the Noles, of course, in Boston there, it'll be quite windy with Lee passing off just to the east of Boston there in Massachusetts, with at least the temperature staying in the roughly lower 70s here with those gusty conditions. If you're headed out to church on Sunday, I expect those temperatures also to kind of stay in the 70s to near 80 degrees with perhaps a chance of some showers or storms. Picnics also on Sunday should look really delightful there. If you're enjoying that outdoors, should look really nice. 86 degrees at 1 p.m., kind of dropping into, well, 85 degrees by 5 p.m. So not very much of variability, but overall it should remain fine in the temperature department. Now, with this Jaguar behind me here, if you're watching the Jaguar versus Chiefs game, of course, good NFL game here. 1 p.m. Sunday at Bankfield in Florida here. 88 degrees at 1 p.m. down to 86 by 5 p.m. Bucks should also stay really pleasant out there if you're in the Tampa area. And then also into the weekend, 80s, of course, across the board here. So really should make for a really pleasant weekend, especially if you have that Saturday watch party watching, of course, the Noles take on Boston College in Massachusetts. But actually, we'll kind of change gears again here. We'll actually talk a bit about hurricane, of course, with Lee being out near Massachusetts, actually.
Right. So we're going to talk a little about some research that a channel and I conducted a few summers ago. We went throughout the state of Florida, and we went to Jacksonville, Tallahassee, the area around Miami, and Fort Myers. And we surveyed people on the cone of uncertainty and exactly what they understood about it, what their preferences were towards it, and what they might want to see added or changed to it. And what we found from that survey is that generally people do like the cone of uncertainty. There's not actually a lot of discontent with it as a whole, but if there can be anything added to it, they would like to see a little more hazards element to it, as in they like to see a little more identification of where the winds and maybe the tornado threat and surge could be the strongest on the cone itself. So that's what we generally did a few years ago. If you guys have any questions, feel free to answer them.
So Robert, tell me a little bit, what was the inspiration behind the project?
Right, so Chandler and I got together and we were sort of thinking about, we were applying for an idea grant, trying to understand what issues we could try and survey on ourselves, because we were freshmen at the time, so we didn't have quite as much meteorological knowledge, and we wanted to just come at a survey with something that would be helpful to do, but not out of our depth. So we were looking and we understood, well, we're in Tallahassee, a place generally impacted by tropical weather, what can we do to help that? Well, the cone of uncertainty has come under criticism sometimes. It's a great product, excellent. That's what we found through our survey. People do like it. But there's some things that could maybe be added or changed to it.
Pretty fascinating.
Yeah, that's awesome. How do you think it would like impact people, I guess, like directly?
So if these sort of changes where we added hazards-based identification to the cone would be added, you would see a little more on the cone itself of just areas where you can see where the impacts might be felt the strongest. And one thing we actually heard from some of our respondents in the survey is people liked the cone itself, but they just want to know inland what was going to happen to them, because they saw the watches identification on the cone, but they want to know what's going to happen to them inland and where they need to go if they're trying to evacuate and what they can expect. So that's what really sort of helped people understand, and they would see those impacts on the cone itself.
Do you not think that like broadcasters help bridge that gap?
Broadcasters absolutely do help bridge that gap. And that's one sort of survey element we included in our survey is the broadcasters themselves. And what we did hear from broadcasters, they wish that if there was a specific product that they would be distributing to the people, that they could have one product showing everything people need to know, and they just wanted to have a little more on that cone.
I think they would lose their job. I mean, if you created the perfect product, then we wouldn't need to be here.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's why it's so important to have a person explaining at the end of the day, because there's still a lot more than just the cone that people need to know. That's why broadcasters are such an important element in it.
So real quick before we wrap things up here, what is kind of is there any future plans with the project?
Yes, we're currently trying to understand just how this could be implemented and what changes we could make to it. We're really excited about what we could see with this cone in the future.
Awesome. Looking forward to hearing more about it.
Yeah, and so we're going to actually transition into the tropics, and I'm going to get to talk a little bit about it, and we get to apply kind of what we learned, because we're going to look at a cone of uncertainty with the storm Lee. But before we get there, we're just going to look at the names that are possible, because we know Lee and Margaret's out there, but what about there's another tropical system we're looking at, and if it forms, its name would be Nigel, and we've gotten pretty far through this list, it looks like, and we've still got a couple names we could spin up as we go into the end of our season. And things are looking pretty busy out there too. We've got 3 threats that we're kind of monitoring, and the NHC is monitoring, and we get to tell you about them. One of them is Lee, one of them is Margaret, and one of them is that new storm, like I said, that could be Nigel if it keeps forming and gaining strength. But looking at a fish storm, if you don't know what a fish storm is, it just means it's not going to hit anybody. It's going to mess with the fish. They're not going to be too big fans of it, and that is Margaret. And she is going to kind of, I think it's Margot actually, my bad, Margot, and she's going to kind of spin. So it's spinning like a hurricane, but it's also going to spin in terms of its track and still not affect anybody. So that is really nice to see. And then, like I said, we have possible Nigel out there. We're going to be monitoring it. It could pick up strength. It's not affected to anyone like within the next couple of days, but it's still something we should monitor, especially for our friends out there in Bermuda. So here's that track. Like I said, it could reach to a level 3, category 3 hurricane. So that's something we're going to want to keep an eye on just to see how it goes. These things can build strength for a couple of days. And that's what Lee has done. We've been tracking Lee here at the studio for a little over a week now, and it's finally about to make landfall. It's kind of expected to make landfall here in the northeast, perhaps at least bring some rain and wind into the area, but not a direct hit. It's mainly going to hit our friends in Canada in terms of where the eye makes landfall, but it will still bring some impact. So wind and rain is possible for our friends in the northeast. The spaghetti models show that it's not really going to hit our friends there, but it could make its way up, and like getting all that rain, all that convection, that's not going anywhere. That's going to continue to stay in our area. And it's a category 1, so it could have tropical storm force winds. Just zooming in a little bit closer, it's really focusing that area in Canada. Here's those expected winds. Like I said, they could see close to tropical storm force, but they're definitely going to be a little bit more breezy than they typically see here in the United States. And as that eye makes landfall, it's also going to be even more breezy. So wind gusts are definitely a factor with Lee, as well as rain, because it's pretty rain wrapped right now, and it'll weaken just a little bit, but it is going to bring lots of rain. And like I said, with the rain, we have a 2-day flood potential, so we could see some slight risk of flooding here in the U.S. Though we're not getting a direct landfall, we are getting that side of the storm, the way Lee is set up, that it just dumps more and more rain. So we might not have as bad as winds, but we do have the potential to have some flooding concerns, flash flooding and river flooding concerns as well, going into the next couple of days. And so here's just a look at that Euro that just show you kind of how much rainfall we could expect. We mentioned that we could have flooding, so we just kind of want to show you guys what that flooding looks like. We could see anywhere between like ½ inch to 3 to 5 inches of rain in this area as Lee makes landfall. So if you are watching from the Northeast, which probably is rare because we live in the Southeast, you need to be monitoring NHC because this is an area that doesn't typically get storms. So you just want to be ready, have your phone charged. Us in Florida, we know what to do, but we know you guys don't typically get storms like this. But I'm going to pass things over to Nico. He's going to talk a little bit more about the local, which doesn't have a tropical storm coming for it, thankfully. What is it?
Now's the time to make sure to have their eyes on this thing. But locally, we don't have to worry about any tropical weather. We do have to worry about mugginess, warm conditions, humid conditions, and showers and storms. We're still hit 79 here in Tallahassee, and in the 80s pretty much area-wide. The wind's picking up a bit. We're now at 6 miles an hour. We were at 5 at the beginning of the show, and that's happening as that sea breeze and outflows are pushing in from the south. Looking at our current dew points, all of them are pretty much between 73 and 77 until you get way up near Donaldsonville and Bainbridge, and even those temperature dew points are still pretty muggy. It's muggy area-wide. If you're going to go outside tonight, you're going to sweat, and it's going to feel humid. And you can see our upper-level water vapor. Our strongest storms today have been where this strong patch of blue was, out near Wakulla County and Franklin County. We've had stronger storms, but you can see it's starting to come in further north, and we're going to start getting more and more storms as we head into this evening. It's starting to spread. The outflows coming north, and now the storms are starting to gradually build up a little bit closer to Interstate 10, and we even have a little shower popping up near Tallahassee. So if you're out and about on this Friday evening, pay attention to the wet roadways because it could get wet this evening. And then Saturday, if you have weekend plans, Saturday looks like another active day with potentially a couple rounds of showers and storms. Sunday, it looks like the front will pass, and by late Sunday evening, we're going to start to see our drier air come in. But up until then, we're going to have to deal with these rounds of showers and storms over the next couple afternoons that could produce. We're looking at 1.5 to 2.5 inches in some pockets if it sits over the same area. Most of the area should see around 1 inch of rain this weekend, but you can definitely see locally higher totals, as you can see depicted in southeastern Alabama. That can easily be moved depending on where the cell ends up sitting right over for a couple hours, and then you could get a quick 3 inches of rain. So definitely keep your mind on that. But for Friday night forecast, if you're going to be out and about tonight in Tallahassee, 72 with some scattered thunderstorms. So we could see some storms this evening. That's definitely something to pay attention to. Looking at our week ahead, we've got showers and storms the next 2 days along the front, followed by the drier air as we head through this weekend. And now I'm going to take things over to the desk to continue talking about our local weather and everything we've talked about on the show tonight.
That's right. I mean, honestly, look at that 64 degrees. I am so excited Monday night into Tuesday. Nico, how about you?
I'm pretty excited for that, too. It's not nice to have to wake up and immediately be walking in humid conditions.
I know, like this morning when I just stepped out the door, I was just covered in sweat. That's just how it is here, of course, in summertime in Florida with dew points, in the mid 70s and then temperatures near the 90 degrees or so?
It's already feeling like almost 90. Walking to class today, and my class was at 9:20 in the morning. It was muggy and humid already. Definitely not a nice feeling to start the day.
And you kind of go within that transition zone where it's still pretty muggy with the dew points higher in the morning, but then it's temperature's starting to rise up, so it feels even worse than maybe it really is. So.
Yeah, it definitely does. But at least we're going to start to get some change in that aspect over the next few days.
Right, we'll have to kind of watch see what happens with, of course, these fronts that look like it might try and come through the area and might bring us a bit of relief. So I'm all hands for it. So.
Yeah, me too. We only have a couple more weeks until we start to really cool off on average. So we're still watching for our first really big front as well.
That's right, and of course we'll have to watch over the next several days as that potentially for that cold front to come through. But don't forget to follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/FSU weather.
And you can always like us on Facebook at facebook.com/FSU weather.
And also, if you're not watching us live right now, watch us live on YouTube at youtube.com/FSU weather.
And you can follow us on Instagram at FSU weather as well. And you can always send us pictures there. We'll see them, and maybe they'll end up getting on the show even.
Right, Nico. And actually, we'll kind of look back on that 7-day looking really beautiful and fun out there with, again, upper 80s perhaps, still a lot better than, of course, what we've been used to this time of year. So future temperatures across the country, we're staying relatively mild north, warm, humid south. As we get into your Saturday afternoon, pretty similar story. Still pretty warm and humid south and up into the midsection. Pretty mild and cool, roughly, relative terms, in the Midwest. And then by tomorrow night, or I should say Sunday morning here, really cold, burst, 47 degrees in Bismarck for us, of course, here. And then by Sunday during the day, during the afternoon with the heating. 69 degrees Minneapolis, looking really nice out there. So future radar, we're showing those temperatures, or I should say those that precip here, the sea breeze boundary coming along, at least in Florida. And then as we get to the rest of your week ahead there, we're going to look really fine out there with 80 degrees, 88 degrees by Sunday, and then mid-80s by the rest of the week. Have a good evening.